Hi, I'm Sophie, and when I leave school, I want to be a theatre actress. And I heard that Greg Carroll, who is a really great theatre director, is here, and I'm going to go find him and ask him some questions. So, I'm here with Greg Carroll, who is a theatre director. Now tell me, Greg, how long have you been doing theatre directing?
I've been directing probably for about 30 years, but I've been involved in theatre for 39 years this year.
Okay.
I'm an oldie.
Greg, what do you love about theatre?
What I love about theatre is that I love theatre. That's the main thing. I really do love doing it, and it's been my life for 39 years, and I'm too old to retrain now, so I'm afraid I'm stuck with it. But it's not a bad thing to be stuck with because it's what I like doing.
Okay. What do you think is the difference between acting for the theatre and acting for screen?
Okay, in screen we have what's called a frame. So this camera that's shooting us now, there's a framework in that. So actors have to work within that frame. And so television directors and film directors, they work within a framework. So everything's structured around that idea. Whereas in theatre, we have a frame in a sense. When you have a stage, you've got a stage. But like in this outdoor production, we can be anywhere we like. There's no frame. We can float down from the clouds if we want. Well, we can't really do that, can we? But that's basically the difference. Acting technique, perhaps with a camera, is you have to be a little bit more subdued. You can't be as big as you can be in theatre. In theatre, you can be much more robust and lively and physical. It's difficult to do that on film and TV because cameras are so slow and camera operators are so silly.
What is the biggest challenge of creating live theatre?
The biggest challenge, I think, is getting it on. I think it's more difficult to get film and television on. You can wait for all of your life to get a feature film on, but you generally don't have to wait all your life to get a theatre production on. It's much easier to get a theatre production on, but it can be difficult. Certainly if you've got one of those great big shows, it takes a lot of money and time. But you can do wonderful theatre. Wonderful theatre can be just a small little theatre, just a little group of kids get together and they create this magnificent, wonderful thing. You might do it in your backyard, you know. You can create theatre anywhere, anytime you like. And I think that's the important thing about theatre, is that you can do it anywhere, anytime, and it's only by degrees. It's the same thing with cameras, really. I mean, people have got fantastic cameras now and you can just about shoot anything you like. You don't have to have a huge crew. It's just amazing what technology's doing.
How can young actors best approach professional theatre companies?
Well, I think that the best way for young actors to do that is to be involved in theatre. You must go to shows, see them. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to directors and designers and actors and musicians and artists. A lot of people are involved in making theatre, and by and large, most of them are generous and nice to talk to, and they won't sort of bite your head off, although some will try. But if they do, come to me and we'll fix them up quick smart. All right?
Yeah.
But just be involved in it, and that's the biggest key. And then don't be afraid to go there and offer your services and say, look, I want to work here. And they'll say, go away. And you say, no, I won't. And that's it, you know?
Yeah. In your experience, what makes an actor stand out to be cast in a theatre production?
That's a difficult question to answer because you look for a lot of things in your actors. You might have a particular role in mind, and some actors may be good for that role, others may not be. You may even decide to reverse roles in a production where you get women to play the men's roles, which could be really interesting, or vice versa. Yeah. But you have to look for who you think is the best person to do that role. And I think that's right across theatre and film and television. And you make those judgments based on people's experience and perhaps even their raw talent. So there's always a place for young people because young people are always pushing the old people out of the way and they're coming up through the ranks. And it's always exciting to have new blood come into a show and gets everything going, yeah.
And what do you think is the actor-director relationship like in theatre?
I think it's a very close thing. I think theatre directors generally work very closely with their cast. Well, I always do. I like to be heavily involved with my cast. I like to be generous, cooperative. I never shout, and I never carry on like a pork chop like some people might. But I think in order to get the best creative things out of actors and people working in theatre, you have to be generous and be very kind and And I really do mean that. I think anyone who's a bully, there's no place for them in it, because that's just negative vibes, and that just makes everything not as good. Although some people could thrive on that. So that's one thing a director should do, is to understand how people work and operate and perhaps accommodate that. Yeah. Film and television, again, is a different thing to theatre in that context. Yeah.
And what's your advice for auditioning, the do's and the don'ts?
Do be prepared. Do be interested in what you do. Do some background work. Try to understand what it is that they're after, and just generally present yourself as best you can. Do your best work, all your technique and skills. Use all of those things that you've learnt. Or if you haven't got those, raw energy and excitement, and you really want to do it, that works just as well. Because sometimes directors are attracted to that. And the don'ts are just walk in and think that you're going to be a big superstar straight away, because it don't work like that, unless you actually are.
What are your top 3 tips for the next generation of theatre actors?
Oh, the next generation. Once again, I've got to go back to that thing of love what you do. And I've worked with a lot of kids. I've done TV series with children and animals and things, and I don't know if the animals loved it, but I know that the kids loved it, and some of them have kicked on tremendously. And they were only your age, actually, when I was working with them, and they were always fantastic kids. I loved all of them, and some of them have really kicked on in the business. And I can't sort of pinpoint exactly some of those things, but I really do believe it is loving what you do, and enjoying it. You've got to really enjoy what you're doing. If it becomes painful, like any job, don't do it, because it just upsets you, get a bad stomach and headaches. So just always enjoy what you're doing and work hard at it. I mean, I know that's a bit of you can work really hard at things and you don't succeed, but at least you've given it your best shot. Yeah. You've really let it rip and gave it a go.
Have you ever had a live theatre disaster or a funny moment?
I sure have. Probably I can't tell you on TV what some of the funny moments were, and I probably can't tell you some of the disasters were. I've been very fortunate. I've very rarely had disasters. I did fall off a stage once. I thought that, and then the whole audience laughed, and I laughed too. I thought that was pretty funny. And what else? There's been a few funny incidents, but I don't think I could sort of go through those things. And the disasters, well, they're the sort of things that you want to put out of your head. You don't want to know about that. And I don't think I've had too many. I've had a few situations where tempers and things like big commercial productions where the producers are coming down and you start getting really angry, and then I turn into Greg from Footscray, which is a terrifying sight.
What is the production process like, and what is happening today, for example?
Well, the production process is, you always think you've got a lot of time, and as the production process goes through, it gets shorter and shorter, and suddenly you've got to actually go on in front of 1,000 people, and that puts a lot of pressure on you, but it's very exciting. The whole process it's a whole process of building. You have imagination and ideas, and then you've got to try and make all of that work all come together, and that's the excitement of it. And today, right now, as we're really literally just about to start what's called the dress run. We did our tech run last night where we did all the lights and sound, and so today we're actually going into what's called our dress rehearsal. So we run the show as it would run on a show night, testing out the lights and the sound, and everyone's got their right positions and things. We've worked very hard towards this. I won't interfere tonight. I'm just going to sit down and take notes and hope that everything comes together really well.
The final question, where do you scout for up-and-coming theatre actors?
Good question. A good director should go around and see a lot of productions and see people who started out and just working their way up. That's always a good way to see people, because you see them working and you get an idea about what they're doing. Quite often you go to casting people, so you look at casting people for all that sort of thing, and so you get an idea of, and then you audition. So people come along and do their audition piece, and you certainly learn. I learnt a long time ago that older actors, or some actors, have their party pieces where they trick you. So you've got to be careful of that, because you can get people who aren't quite right for the roles that you may think they are, but they aren't. But when you're looking at young people, the great thing about working with young people is that they're fresh, raw, ready to go, and they have an innocence which is lovely, so you don't have to worry about those other elements. And that's about it, really.
Thank you.
That's all right.